Hello everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to the IBPAP HRCC Brown Bag session entitled 2020 Learning Future, hosted by POWERinU Training and Coaching Philippines Inc., a subsidiary of Sagos Group. Thank you for taking the time off your busy schedules to patronize this event. We are truly delighted to have you all here to participate. That many of you travel long distances to serve us to flatter are continuing to organize these kinds of events. I would like to call on Mr. Nestor Marfori Jr., Director of POWERinU Philippines, to introduce our speaker for this afternoon.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is June Marfori, and I am a Director of POWERinU Training and Coaching Philippines, or PTC. And we are pleased to be working with IBPAP this afternoon and to MC this segment in particular. Shortly, I will be welcoming the President of PTC, but please let me just walk you through the agenda for this afternoon. We will talk about two very interesting topics. They will speak for themselves. And then we will have a short coffee break for some real live face-to-face age-old networking that still runs alongside excellently, I believe, with the digital workspace and social networking. And then we will have an opportunity during the coffee break. We will invite you over to our e-learning module section here in this part of the hall and invite you to experience for yourselves and navigate through some of our self-paced e-learning modules. During the discussions, we will hear Jeremy talk about transforming work and learning in the digital era, as well as the 5 drivers for a successful workplace. So that we would dovetail that with a panel discussion when we come back from our coffee break and have some of our esteemed panelists talk a little bit about maybe 2 or 3 of those 5 drivers that Jeremy will speak to us about. And before we hand you over to our speaker, if you have not done this yet, we would like to invite you for the next minute or two to actually participate in our live polling, which will be explained a little bit more by Jeremy at some point. So if you haven't done this yet, please do this. We'll take about a minute to do so that you can participate actively, and we invite you to respond to this opportunity. So before anything else, I'd like to welcome on stage the President of POWERinU Training and Coaching Philippines, Mr. Benjamin Diodato, or Benji Garcia.
On behalf of my colleagues at POWERinU Training and Coaching Philippines Incorporated, welcome to today's event, which we've called 2020 Learning Future. Before I introduce our resource person for this afternoon, let me just briefly tell you about POWERinU, or PTC. We use those terms interchangeably within our group. My friends and I formed POWERinU to partner with organizations such as member companies of IBPAP to enable them to deliver business results by enhancing talent and leadership in their respective organizations through value-adding strategic solutions. I'm not going to bore you with all the details of our services, but you will certainly be able to find all of those in our website, powerinu.com.ph. Instead, I will tell you 3 things that we possess to back up our mission. First, I am pleased to tell you that within POWERinU, we have a collective effort represented by over 120 years of professional experience in human resource management, sales, consulting, and general management in various industries, both multinational and local. That includes significant international experience. Before you start counting our ages, let me just tell you that some of us actually started working when we were 10 years old. Second, I am proud to say that our current partnerships and accreditations with various internationally recognized organizations such as Sagos, and we're not a subsidiary of Sagos, we are partnering with Sagos. I didn't know we were just acquired, which is Europe's largest professional and management training provider. Jack Canfield, Marshall Goldsmith Stakeholder-Centered Coaching, and corporate coach you, for those of you who are into executive coaching. And last but not the least, I'm actually the newest member of the team, POWERinU. But I am honored to announce that I'm associated with professionals who are passionate about talent and leadership development, committed to continuous learning, as well as the pursuit of spiritual growth. Now, let me introduce to you our resource person. We've actually referred to him, June and I have referred to him several times already, and you've seen his resume, credentials. But let me just go through that very quickly. Our resource speaker is Mr. Jeremy Blaine. Some of you have actually met him earlier. He's the managing director of Sagos Group, one of the world's largest professional skills training companies operating today. He is the regional managing director for Sagos Asia Pacific, based out of Singapore. He covers India from the west all the way to the Pacific countries in the east. Jeremy actually steered Sagos Asia Pacific to its most industry-recognized year, just last year, 2015, with 8 separate awards, both locally and regionally, for contributions in human resource, L&OD, and organizational digital transformation across Asia Pacific. That's certainly a topic that will be covered today. As one of Sagos' senior executives, Jeremy is a frequent international conference speaker and media commentator on topics related to the global L&D market, so something that we're all interested based on the turnout today. The themes include leadership and management challenge of global organizations as they head towards workplace shift in the 2020s, the integration of emerging and informal learning technologies, the importance of performance measurement and proving ROI, developing core commercial skills to achieve competitive business advantage, and many more. As a result of Jeremy's outstanding work in the field of training and development, he has been recognized by Stanford's Who's Who since 2013. In their words, quote, Jeremy has consistently demonstrated the dedication, vision, and skills required to be considered among the best. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present Mr. Jeremy Blaine.
As you can tell from my accent, I'm from the northern part of the Philippines, Manchester. And I work for a French company. I live in Singapore. I cover India to the Pacific. I kind of see myself as a global citizen these days, and I think it's like that for many of us, and will be moving forward. What we're going to talk about today is really a fundamental shift that is happening right across the world. And I don't know if anybody of you heard of the term and the age that we're in called the Great Acceleration. Has anybody come across that at the moment? Yeah, a few of you have. That is, the pace of change is ever accelerating at a faster rate. I mean, we've only got to know, can anybody remember when Apple first brought out the first iPhone, the first smartphone? Do you remember how many years ago was that now? Many years. Yeah, what was the year? Somebody? 2007. Anyone else? More guesses? 1991? No. It was 2007, in fact. That is barely 9 years ago. I mean, can you remember a time before you had this thing glued to your hand? Can you? I mean, how many times do we look at it each day and use it? And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. You can also connect with me afterwards. In the spirit of what we're talking about today, we should all be connected, or we apparently are all connected. So please, link with me on LinkedIn, for example. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at LearnThePlanet on Twitter. Because this topic is kind of so broad that there's so much happening. I'm going to just cover a little bit of it today. So, let me just explain a little bit about Sagos. How many of you have heard about Sagos Group before? How many of you have heard about Sagos Group? Start the car, Elaine. Not many. I'll forgive you for that. No, absolutely. We're relatively new here, which is why we're partnering with POWERinU, and we're very proud to do so. And thank you very much indeed for that as well. We are a soft skills training provider, a very traditional soft skills training provider, in fact, doing everything from management and leadership right through to communication, project management, sales, negotiation, everything, as we're a generalist. We're a scale organization. We're definitively the #1 in Europe, but we're probably about #4 or so in the world as well. So we're the best kept secret in the Philippines, I think I'll call us, the largest you've never heard of. We're also actually, in terms of everybody in this room, we're the largest managed service provider in Germany and in France, and one of the largest in Europe as well. So we offer a whole range of managed services in terms of training and development, training administration, call center, course booking, etc. Right? In fact, I think we've got 2 of the biggest call centers in France and Germany on that too. So we're quite familiar with the industry as well. And also, we are 90 years old this year. In fact, this very month, we're 90 years old. Can you believe? 1926. So the iPhone was invented 9 years ago. We were invented 90 years ago. That was when Winnie the Pooh was first published, Houdini died, and a piece of technology got its first airing. Does anybody know what it was? Anyone make a guess? TV. The first TV signal was sent by John Logie Baird. Look at us now, with the technology that we have. So, we're bringing you today we're going to bring you a little bit about the future of work, and that will impact learning as well, but I want to talk about kind of more generally. So it's going to be an action-packed kind of next hour or so. Split into 2 halves. The first half is, where are we going, what's happening, what are some of the new things that should frighten us or that give us an opportunity out there, and what are some of the myths that we can separate from some of the truths out there too. The second part of the presentation is based on brand new research, which we've not launched officially yet, so you're one of the first to get the airing of this, about with the journey that we have over the next 10 years, which I'll talk about in a second. What are the drivers for change that will make us most successful if we get those right? And that's important because I call what's coming at us the perfect storm. Within the next 10 years, the workplace is going to shift rather dramatically. Now, I think you're experiencing some of that here, certainly within this room, but if you consider, we have a new generation joining the workforce, Generation Z. We have an aging population in many Asian countries. Retirement ages are increasing, healthcare is getting better, we want to work for longer, potentially 15 more years in some organizations. We've got to glue all of that together. Technology's hitting us, we're in a global village, etc., etc., etc. So we've got quite a bit on our plate. So that's what we'll talk about. And we will also do some live polling. So has everybody managed to get on this? So this is the only presentation where I'm going to say, please no, take out your mobile phones and start looking at them. So can we give it a test, please? Okay. So if you can go onto the site, and I'm going to do the same while we do it, and you will see there's a couple of things I'll let you know. Okay, first of all, when you're on the site, which looks, you're not going to be able to see that, but when it looks like that, you have an orange bar at the top. We have, the first thing that you'll see is the IBPAP 2020 Learning Future event, okay, at the top of the screen. Below it, you'll see something that says enter this Q&A. Now, what we've set up here for you is because we're quite tight on time, we might not be able to answer all of your questions. So any questions you have, you can add in here, either with your name or anonymously, it's up to you, okay? And we promise if we don't get them to you today, we will summarize afterwards the answers and send to everybody afterwards, anonymously. So, does everybody see the poll below that says, I am looking forward to this session? Yeah? Could you press cast your vote, please, and keep an eye on as you're doing it. So cast your vote, either yes or no, you are looking forward to this session. And now you will see the screens get, who's voted no? I know that's you, Elaine. I can see you smiling at the back. Yeah. So this is what will happen. What you'll be able to see as we poll, you'll be able to see this live happening as we go through it. So as we come to some kind of pertinent points within this presentation, I'll point you to this piece of technology. It's really simple to use, and we'll go into it and we'll see what that tells us. So let me just shift over here a little bit. So, welcome to the fourth industrial revolution. Did you know that we had entered the fourth industrial revolution? The fourth industrial revolution is actually the second epoch that we have just entered. Do you know we have also entered a new human era? Does anyone know what it is? This is not a polling question, so don't worry. We've entered the Anthropocene, it's called. So where human beings have a lasting impact on the planet Earth. Both negatively and positively, I believe, that is said. But the fourth industrial era is something that we have just entered, and this is how it's defined. A blurring of the lines between the physical, the digital, and the biological. How many of you in this room wear a wearable, as it's called? How many of you got a smartwatch on? Anybody? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not an auction. You can put your hands up. Technology like that is becoming more and more smart materials that we wear, and we're kind of, we have them all around us. How many of you in here have more than one device with you? Okay, how many of you have more than 2 devices with you? How many of you have more than 3? Nobody's admit you have. Thank you very much. If we had a prize, you would win it. But that's it. But isn't it? It's more and more we're having these things. We use them for different things. Some of us prefer to separate social from work, from other things. Some of us prefer to have it in one place. But this is where the blurring of the lines is happening. And it's going to get, in the next sort of 10 years with this shift coming and this great acceleration, there is new technology every day. I mean, how many new apps are there every day? It's hard to keep up. What's the right app for me? What is the most appropriate technology? I don't know. Because it could be that within 1 year that technology is gone and replaced with another one. It's interesting. It's kind of not like old technology. When I talk about old technologies like TV, for example, and when you consider how long TV and radio took to get to even a million viewers or listeners, and you consider something like Facebook that almost within the first week had way surpassed that. We can really accelerate everything that we do in terms of communication. Consider these. You familiar with some of these names? So the world's largest taxi organization has no vehicles. One of the largest financial services lenders, Society One in Australia, has no money, has no banks. And what a lot of these have in common with Airbnb, has anybody stayed in an Airbnb property? Yeah, a few of you. Is anybody an Airbnb host here? Me. Yeah. Well, that's happening more and more now. This is another kind of impact of what this future has to hold, this sharing economy, it's called, is where people like us in this room, we don't have to be a business anymore. We can do it ourselves, or we can go to a curating site like Airbnb or Society One. Society One, in terms of financial services, is an interesting one. They lend money through people like us. So we say, I have $1,000, let's say, to lend at an interest rate of, 1.5%. And it is regulated within their system. So you can be sure as the lender and you can be sure as the borrower within there. Now, this is what also the terminology is kind of being bandied out there, disruption. There are new players coming in that we didn't even know would be competition, but they are right now. Think about the impact that Uber and Grab have had on kind of the formal state-run or company-run or country-run taxi organizations. Think about, you may have heard about in Indonesia, the huge demonstrations and new legislation which might now be put in place specifically for that. In fact, the legal profession has one of the toughest tasks right now in terms of what is accelerating technology, use of things like this. There are no laws that create a precedent. So they're having to kind of do it as they go along, learn it as they go along. And it's really interesting, you talk about TV, and the simplest idea Netflix can have, which says, Why should I watch what you tell me to watch at the time you tell it to me and then make me wait a week until I can see Game of Thrones again? It's not fair. I want to watch it all at one time. I want to know what happens to Jon Snow, all of that. Yeah? And Netflix have done that and totally disrupted the way TV is there. And you have the traditional companies like NBC Universal, for example, who are saying, right, we need an on-demand platform really quickly, because they'd not thought about it. So we're seeing all of that. But what about all of us at the moment? Because, you can be forgiven. Think about, Elon Musk. Heard of Elon Musk? So heard of the cars Tesla? So this is Elon Musk's company. And he also has a company called SpaceX. Have you heard of that? The rockets that he's trying to land on a platform on the ocean, which have crashed every time, more or less, apart from one. So perhaps our mantra for the new digital revolution in the fourth industrial revolution that we're in right now is, if at first you don't succeed, call it version 1. Yeah, call it version 1. How many how many times it's not called failure anymore. It's called, that's just, it was just a pilot version. We're on to version 2 already, and we're going to do an upgrade on the OS. The amount of times I get an upgrade on my Android and or Apple phone, which had just come a week after the last upgrade, is a way of saying this, yeah. But perhaps for all of us in this room, we have something more familiar that we've been working with. Let me walk you through some of these. We probably use, I'm guessing most of you use some of these at some of the time, because you can get everything. Who's on LinkedIn in here? Yeah. Who's on Twitter? Who has an active Twitter account? And you post every day, you tweet every day. Should not post, tweet, see, I'm getting the wrong terminology already on here. And we're all kind of reliant on this thing here, yeah? But one of the most incredible things to happen in the last few years is the rise of emoticons and emojis. How many of you thought that you could, never do without these things, or you never knew you needed these so much? How many of you use emojis regularly? A smiley face, a winky eye, those kind of things. This is a phenomenon around communication. It's kind of breaking down cultural barriers. It's incredible. And we can't do without it. It's like I have to express my emotions now with some kind of smiley face or a frown or a wink or whatever it is. But it's making front page news. Look at some of these. So, there's so many of these things now that you can get. Has anybody heard of Slack, the technology Slack? Slack is a piece of technology which is bringing messaging, instant messaging, chat, and video calls all into one place. So it's a little bit like Skype, but a little bit on turbo, if you like, sort of fuel injected. Now, what Slack are doing is that they're using emojis. So when I'm on a live call, so if I'm having a live call with you and you're seeing my face do this, I can press a button and say that I'm really happy about what you just said, or instead of laughing, I can put a laughy smiley face on my face. Why we need this, I don't know, but it is one of the fastest growing technologies in terms of communication at the moment. And what's more interesting, what they're encouraging some of their users to do is take actual pictures. So, like with your webcam. So, of you feeling sad, feeling happy, or you name it, you can do it. And what they're next going to do is you can put your own face on your own face. These are the most popular emojis by country. I think you can probably just make that out, but I thought it was just absolutely worth it. Talk about cross-cultural training. What this can tell you, I don't know, but I don't know what's happening in Canada. I really don't know what's happening in Canada. And from Russia with love over there as well. And the Germans appear to be hiding from the rest of Europe because that's all crashing while they're doing really well. It's maybe telling us quite a lot about it, about what it is. And there's a lot of, this is creating a lot of big data, of which many of you are very, very familiar, I'm sure. And that's going to be one of the new innovations coming very, very soon in terms of the application of AI, artificial intelligence, to some of these things. How can we make more of what we're seeing here to give us some really kind of intuitive insights into some of these countries, people, you name it. This was used by 20th Century Fox to advertise a very, very popular film of the last 2 months. Can anybody tell me what it is? Sorry? Deadpool, yes, exactly. Now, this was a campaign that was run solely through kind of subversive social channels like this, using community to spread word of mouth, and using kind of this trend to communicate their message to be a little bit more left field. And the star, Ryan Reynolds, he actually pitched this to 20th Century Fox about 10 years ago, and it was not greenlit. 2 years ago or 3 years ago, he put some test footage on the web. He leaked it onto the internet, and within 2 days, over 250,000 fans had petitioned 20th Century Fox, and it was greenlit the next day as a movie. It is now the highest rated, the highest grossing R or mature rated film of all time. It's just over $750 million already. It's incredible how they've done it and how they use these kind of new techniques. So let's go to your pigeonhole, okay? Let's do a little poll. So if you go where you were before, if you go to the very, very next question, and consider your own organization, and consider these mobile technologies that we've talked about, not general technologies, mobile technologies that we've been talking about. Cast your vote based on the answers that you're given. How much does your organization use these kind of technologies to engage and collaborate internally or externally with your customers? Please vote. And you can see it live happening. Some people are changing their vote. Okay, so, still changing. So about neck and neck, little or none, or we're making progress. So kind of at the start of the journey, but if you consider, obviously, you know, a lot of like the industry in this room and the generational mix within the industry within this room as well, and the use of mobile technologies within that generation, you know, there's an opportunity there to be had. So while progress is being made in some quarters, perhaps actually there's a great opportunity to do something here, because if you can start to use these and start to collaborate effectively, some great results can come internally and externally in terms of engagement and moving forward. And I'm going to show you a small video here about a company, Emirates. Has anybody flown on Emirates before? Yeah, a couple of you. Emirates did a fantastic campaign that used mobile technologies to spread their message, but a very human engagement strategy to kind of buy in people. I'm going to show you this. This was at a football match in Portugal, in Benfica.